I'd like to introduce Patricia Madeja. Based in West Islip, which is in Long Island, Patricia is a studio jeweler, a goldsmith, and an educator. Working in gold, silver, precious gems, and pearls, her primary inspirations are geometry and architecture. She creates one-of-a-kind and or limited edition pieces, some which feature kinetic movement, as you will see. She has won prestigious awards and has exhibited and been published worldwide. As an educator, she's a professor of fine arts and the fine arts jewelry coordinator at Pratt, where she nurtures future metalsmiths and jewelers. She and her students survived teaching online during COVID, and I think we may have some questions to ask her about that and about the future of the field. I met Pat when she was the managing director of SNAG, North American Society of Goldsmiths. And she was hosting some Zooms during the pandemic, and I always appreciated her dedication and enthusiasm. I know we're in for a treat tonight.
Thank
So
you.
I
Judy.
give you Pat.
So good evening, everyone. I am Patricia Madeja. Judy, thank you so much for that lovely introduction. Thank you for inviting me. Lita Clemenson, thank you so much also for being part of that invitation. And Nancy Oley for your unbelievable technical abilities. I'm happy to be the first hybrid artist speaking to the Long Island Craft Guild. And I'm actually so thrilled to be speaking to my local community. You know, that is so important for me. So thank you for having me. So again, as Judy so eloquently pointed out, I am a studio jeweler. It's so funny when I hear the word goldsmith because I never ever thought of myself as a goldsmith, which is interesting. But I do work in gold, so thank you. And I also am the jewelry program coordinator at Pratt. I am going to correct one little thing because I wasn't the managing director. I'm on the board of directors for SNAG. And at the time, I think when we first met, Pat Cole was the managing director. And now we have an amazing director, Brienne Rosner. So just wanted to point that out for our recording. So tonight I want to talk to you about Patricia Madeja, the studio jeweler, and share a little bit of my work and process with you and my creative journey. This is a picture of my bench. I'm full disclosure here. This is actually my old bench. It wasn't a real jeweler's bench, but a lot of work got made on this bench. My real jeweler's bench, I grew up to a real jeweler's bench. You can kind of see back there in the back, Michael Callahan, who is my amazing life partner and has been on this journey with me through everything. And he was responsible for this renovation. So thank you, Michael.
So a little bit of history. I studied at Pratt Institute, got my bachelor's at Pratt Institute. And this was something Nancy and I were talking about when we were doing our little practice session. And she said that this might be really interesting for all of you to hear, that when I was first choosing to study at a university, I was looking at architecture programs. Clearly where my interest lies. But I went for my interview at Pratt. I was extremely intimidated and I decided I did not want to study architecture. So they suggested I take my portfolio to the School of Art and Design, and I did. And I was accepted to both schools, but now I'm in the School of Art and Design without a plan. I have no idea what I'm going to do. So I thought, oh, graphic design, communication design, that looks really cool. And I think I took, I don't know if it was a semester or a year, and sorry everyone who does graphic design, I really didn't like it. It was not for me. I was not a 2D person. And so I then went to the sculpture area of fine arts, and in sculpture I took a jewelry class. And that jewelry class changed everything. I fell in love. It was for me. I loved the attention to detail, the ability to make something that I could actually make a living doing in a clear way in my head. So that's how it came about. It was very circuitous, but I've never turned back after that. So this is an image of things that inspire me, right? Roller coasters, bridges, structure, architectural structures, Ferris wheels, math, geometry. I love all of those things. This was one of my early pieces. This is my iconic Slinky bracelet. And this piece was the first piece that won an award. And when I started to make this piece, I did not have this piece in mind. The way this came about, little story, I actually had cast, oh, let me just clarify. I hand fabricate my work. I use a casting process, but I hand build all my models, and I do not use CAD at all. But casting is a very important part of my process, because in this piece, if every single triangle is not identical, this piece would not work. And I have this piece here tonight, so you can take a closer look after. But I had I had just made the wire triangle, and I had some cast, and they were laying on my bench, and they were all in the way. And I just stacked them together and pushed them aside. And I looked at the stack and I went, oh, interesting. And then I had to figure out how to connect them and how to make them hold together. And so you can just see on the inside of that bracelet picture image, there's a row of jump rings that connect each link together. So that bracelet, although, you know, really great looking, also had a bit of a high profile. And I had some customers come to me and say, you know, we love this bracelet, but I can't wear this to work. I can't, you know, be at my desk. It would hit the desktop. So I thought, how could I do something with a lower profile that had a similar feel? And that's how this optic bracelet was evolved from this other design. And I know we're probably short on time, so I'm gonna try to go through pretty quickly. So I was very, very interested in Art Deco. I had this amazing Art Deco book called Art Deco Jewelry, and I was paging through it, and I saw this bracelet, and this is a bracelet by Jean Fouquet. And I was like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing. And those balls roll, and oh, I love this. And when I was in school, I was actually playing with concepts like this, but nothing, when I saw this, it changed everything for me. So this bracelet, this is one of the first, this kind of launched my tambourine collection, what I call the tambourine collection. But this design was a direct influence from Jean Fouquet's Art Deco ball bearing bracelet. And I started doing this piece with semi-precious stones, but because I use a torch to ball the wire, I was not sure that I could do this technique with pearls. So I experimented, found a way to do it, and it launched this whole collection and body of work. Here's a few other pieces in this collection, and I did bring the ring so you could really see that piece in person. This tambourine collection was shown by the Artful Home, and it sold extremely well. So, and I still continue to make these pieces, and the ring I still sell through the Artful Home. So yeah, this is me doing a triple level cuff, so you can see how I'm balling the wire. Right now I'm trimming it, and I have to get each wire the right size, so the balls all kind of come out uniformly. And that's like my soldering area. I think that's my old soldering area, actually. The cube, which cube thing? Oh, it's a charcoal block on the left, on the top. Oh, that's my lamp. That white, yeah, that's a dazer lamp, and that's the base of the lamp. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. I love that. And you might be like, putting your finger there. But actually, it's good for me to put my finger there because this will not transfer heat. The whole thing is you can't transfer heat with the pearls. So if I feel heat, my finger is a good indicator, then I know that I'm in trouble. And I have to stop and readjust the wires to make sure, or I will burn the pearls. But I do have some tricks, and I'm happy to share if anybody's interested. So our jewelers that are here, I'm happy to share what those tricks are. This is silver. And actually, silver is the hardest to ball. Well, of the precious metals, 14 karat gold is the 14 karat gold is the easiest. But when you oh, there we go. When you ball up gold, you have to use flux. Okay, so abacus. Why am I showing you an abacus? So when I made that tambourine collection, and specifically the ring, my ring design was, I don't want to use the word stolen, but it was, no, it was copied by a big company. And at the time, I was very frustrated, but I was like, I didn't have the money to get a lawyer. I didn't have the mental space to pursue it because I felt like it was draining me. And I was like, I want to create. And clearly they don't have the ideas I do. So I channeled that into what became my abacus collection. So I still have the spinning stones, but now I widened the piece so they could move up and down. So now they're spinning and moving. This opened up a whole new collection that sold very, very well and kind of moved me away from the, as I said, I'm still selling the tambourine ring, right? But it just put me in a better place. And these things happen. And I think that we just, it's how we deal with it. And I was very pleased with these results. That bracelet was my abacus bracelet, and this is a ring in gold with tourmaline. But I also made this collection in sterling silver with pearls, just like the tambourine collection. And again, it's sold very, very, very well. So I think a much better use of my time, energy, and creativity. So this is my first attempt working with like the colored stones and a hinged link. And I'm fascinated by these things that roll on your body. So all of these amethysts are suspended in these frames and they roll. It just floats on your neck. The clasp, I'm very proud of this clasp. And for those of you that are here tonight, I'll explain that when you're actually looking at the piece. Build all my clasps into my design, so they're all continuous. There's not a break in the design. So again, this is just another iteration of this spinning in a bracelet. Won 2 awards. It is published in books. It got so much press. It was shown at the Bruce Museum in Connecticut. This piece was one of those really extraordinary pieces that don't come along very often. So if you can, I know it's a little hard because my image is there right now, but do you see those papers with the numbers on them? That was actually my pattern for this bracelet because all the stones were different sizes. So I had to pair them because I had to pair the aquamarine with the lemon citrine so that this bracelet would work. And then I had to align them because I wanted them to flow in a certain way, and I couldn't mix up the pieces. So these were my little number patterns to keep everything mentally together. And also a lot of double stick tape. Double stick tape is really good for laying things out so it doesn't get mixed up. This is going quickly. This is a necklace along the same designs. This came later. And then this was a double bracelet version. This is white gold, 18 karat palladium white gold with pink amethyst. Oh, there we go. This is a piece with pearls, and actually I brought this piece tonight. It's a pearl choker. I was very much thinking about, okay, everybody was wearing pearl chokers, and pearl chokers really have this classic history. And I thought, I want to make a pearl choker, but I want to do it really different. And that's how this piece came about. These are, again, working with the same concept, but with these freeform cut gemstones. And I like this idea of the freeform geometry with the geometric framework. I don't know if this will play. Oh, there we go. And this is just, I mean, I actually have this piece here tonight, but for the recording, just so you could see how those stones spin. Okay, there we go. And then this is neck piece, same design, but in a neck piece form. And I also have that piece for you to look at. But all those stones spin. Same thing with this garnet bracelet. They all are spinning. Okay, so this neck piece on the right, this neck piece is a direct offshoot of that reversible bracelet. So again, some of the comments that I got was very high profile on this bracelet. So I'm thinking, but I loved the link. And I thought, wow, if I could just get the link to go the other way, I could still do a bracelet with two colored stones on each side. So this necklace was the first iteration where I started to play with this concept. And this is kind of an interesting thing. I was like, how am I going to make this link? And the way I figured out how to link these together was by looking at a diamond tennis bracelet. I looked at a diamond tennis bracelet and how that link worked, and that was the solution for this piece. I'm also very proud of this clasp because I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to build this clasp? You know, clasps are always really tricky. And I had this idea in my head and everyone told me it wouldn't work. And I'm like, no, I think it's going to work. And I did it and it worked. So don't let anybody say you can't do it. Okay, railroad trestle bridge. Why am I showing you this? Well, this became the solution for the next piece I want to share with you, which is this neck piece. I call it my luminaire neck piece, but I had purchased these quartz stones, as you see here, and I purchased them thinking I was going to make something very, very, very different. And then I got them on my bench and I was like, wait a minute, my idea is totally not going to work. And I really had to come up with something new. So I started drawing and sketching and making models for this. You can see here, there are some of the models and some of my sketches. And then I landed on the one you just saw. And I chose that one because you can kind of see on the right how the stones are overhanging the trestle, and that trestle bridge was the solution, that V. I wanted the stones to look like they were just floating on top of the metal. Here I am hinging these pieces, again, trying to keep them in order. The angles on these pieces are very important to get the necklace to sit right on the neck. You will notice in the samples that I brought tonight, those necklaces don't lay flat when they're clasped. That's because our necks are conical. And if it lays flat, and I know this because I made this mistake on an early piece and it stuck out in the back and I had to redesign the whole thing. And I realized it was about the angles of each link. And so that's kind of what you see here. You can also see these little pads here. That's actually how the stones are set into this framework. And here you can see me so I mounted each stone in the frame and the hinges were all hinged. Everything was soldered. And then I mounted each stone and then I had to rivet the hinges. Well, this piece got mixed up all the links got mixed up somehow. And the hinges weren't fitting and it wasn't working. And you could kind of see the double stick tape back here in the background, but somehow they got mixed up. Finally, I solved it, but it took a lot longer to get it all straightened out. So that's why I said double stick tape is your friend. And there's the finished piece. They are. And if when you look at the piece, I'll show you on the piece, and I'll show you how they're mounted. Oh, I'm sorry. If I can go back. There you go. So hinges, there are on this piece, I think there are 3 hinges on each link. So there's 2 on one side, and then there's 1 hinge on the other side. And they fit together, and then there's a pin that goes through the hinge. When you look at the piece, you'll be able to see it. Yeah. This is always the trouble with my work, because there's movement and hinging. When you see a static photo, you don't get that. So my Ferris wheel collection. How did this come about? Well, I was shopping for stones again. I got very into stones, clearly, but I found these diamond bracelets, and I was like, oh my God, these are so beautiful. I need to have these. I'm going to buy some. They're very expensive, but I really didn't know what I was going to do with them. And then I kept looking at them, and you can see my sketches here, right? Like you can see this sketch right here. Like I was like, oh, but if I put them in a wheel and the wheel could spin, then they'd all fall down, like little seats on a Ferris wheel. And that's how this was the first piece in the Ferris wheel collection. This is you know what? I'm going to go back 1 second. So you'll notice here that they have a aquamarine at the top. Well, I decided I didn't like the aquamarines, so I took them apart and wrong way. And I actually set champagne diamonds, which worked much better in my mind, and completed the earring. There's only one of these. All of these pieces, a lot of these pieces that I'm showing you, there's only one of them. And I don't have these anymore. They've sold. So that earring led to this bracelet. So this is the Ferris wheel bracelet. And again, I'm playing with the earring, rolling it on my wrist because it's my thing. And the bracelet, I got the idea for the bracelet. I'm like, wow, this would work as a bracelet. And this is 18 karat gold, champagne diamonds. And this bracelet won the American Vision Award. So, and this is an iteration of the earrings. These are with colored sapphires. So another iteration of this bracelet, the Ferris wheel bracelet, in white gold with black diamonds. So what happened was the bracelet won an award. I submitted this bracelet for a Saul Bell Award. And the competitions overlapped, so that when I submitted it to Saul Bell, I didn't know that the bracelet was going to win this other award. So Saul Bell contacts me because the piece is now in the competition, and they're like, oh, we saw this piece just won an award. We can't consider it. But we would consider it if you made a different one. So I decided to do it in white gold. The wheels are slightly larger, and I used black diamonds. So it worked out. And then this is, get this going. And then this is just a little video so you can see how the piece moves. So again, you get that fluidity from the hinges, but then all the wheels are also spinning. So the whole piece is just big. Yeah. Also very proud of this clasp as well, the way I engineered it. Okay, so again, thinking about inspiration can come from anywhere, right? So I'm going through a design magazine. I see these pendant lights, and I'm like, oh my God, these are so cool. These look like earrings. I want to make earrings like this. And this idea launched this mystic collection that I did. I made lots of earrings in this collection. I made some pendants, all gone now. I don't have any of these pieces left. But it was very successful. but where the inspiration came from, like who knew, a pendant lamp, you know, so I love that. This is, I call this my nonconformist diamond ring because it's a gray colored diamond with black diamonds, not your traditional, you know, ring. And then this was a natural uncut spinel octahedron in floating in a sphere. I did bring this piece. So a little bit about this piece. This is a druzy, and this is a metallic coated druzy. And this is so not something I would normally be attracted to at all. But these were so sparkly, I couldn't resist. And I bought several large ones, made brooches. This is the only piece I have left. And I encircled this one with rubies. So those are all small rubies. But I'd also bought these smaller ones for earrings. The earrings on the right were the first piece I made. I love this combination with the ruby and this sparkly druzy. I mean, people would see these at a show and be like, are those diamonds? Those are diamonds. I'm like, they're not diamonds. And then I had this one pair left, and I had this idea to make cufflinks, and a customer saw the earrings on the right, which had sold, and asked me if I had any more. And I said, I have one pair left. And she was like, I want a pair of earrings with those, and I'd like you to put emeralds around them. So these were custom made for her with the emeralds, and I have no more of these stones. This is the piece I'm wearing tonight. This is my newest infatuation. This is my trapped stone concept that I believe I invented. I think more people are doing things like this, sort of like this, but not in the same way. So I had this idea. I found these beautiful geometric stones. I wanted to celebrate the cut and the gemstone and keep the design really pure. So there's still a floating element, but the piece is literally trapped in this framework. And that's how the stone is set. This is a rose quartz with, I'm sorry, smoky quartz with rose gold. These are earrings that I made with these shapes. I made many versions of these earrings. I have no earrings left at all. This was like one of the last pair in silver with these quartz. Oh gosh, yeah, isn't that funny? Yes, those are my stands. And what happened was I didn't like how my work looked on those like velvety jewelry like ones, so I ended up making these. Oh my god, I didn't even think about that. They're steel wire that I soldered into that T form, and then I drilled marble and glued them in to the marble. And yeah, it was all because I still am using them. So here is how I make this trap stone. This is a piece that's not set, and just again, full disclosure, this is a pendant, which I have since taken apart and making a ring. And I brought it tonight because it's still in process. I haven't set the stone, so you can actually physically see the setting. But yeah, I'm building all of this by hand. And then I'm soldering these wires in. These are tiny thin wires. And then the stone goes in, and this frame comes down, sits right on these little, like almost little pedestal pieces, and then I ball up the wire with the torch, which is tricky because you're working with quartz, which is heat. You can thermal shock it. Here's a version of this with rose gold and smoky quartz, and then earrings with quartz and silver. Again, I have none of these pieces left. So then I got into making these rings, these big rings, which I brought one tonight. And this was my homage to Margaret Tapata. And I don't know if any of you know Margaret Tapata, but her work, I didn't know her. And there was this amazing exhibition at Mad Museum or Museum of Arts and Design in Manhattan. And I was like, oh my God, I fell in love with her work. And when I was making these rings, I had not seen her work. And then I saw her work and I was like, oh my God, I'm like channeling her. You know, she's doing what I'm doing, you know, in a different way, but very similarly. So I made this ring and made it an homage to her as a thank you for this amazing inspiration. And here's a couple other versions of rings that I made like that. And the one that I brought tonight here. It is not, but It is, so I purchased these stones from a gemstone dealer in Manhattan. His name is Robert Bentley. Do you know Robert Bentley? I got these stones from him. They're not Munsteiners, but this is Brazilian material cut by German cutters. So they have that knowledge and that ability to make these optical cuts. Yeah, I love them. So when you look at the ring, you'll see it's like cut in a way. So when you look through it, you get all these like prisms and angles and all reflected within this gemstone. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. And just a quick little, because I thought we would, for the people who would be watching on Zoom, so they wouldn't be here to see the actual piece. So you see how that prism is, the cuts are amazing. I'm so infatuated. Okay, what does the future hold? Well, I got lots on my bench right now, and because I have no more of those earrings with those optical cuts, I've since purchased some additional shapes, and I'm really excited to make some new earrings. And then the bracelet, so the necklace that I showed you earlier, that I talked about, was inspired by the reversible bracelet. I since have had stones cut for that, and I'm really anxious and excited to start that larger version bracelet with some colored stones. So that's what's in my future at the moment, and who knows what else. But thank you all so much. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate it. So let's look at some work, and then I'll maybe answer some questions, or if you want to ask questions before we look at the pieces. I am using an oxyacetylene little torch. The torch is made by Smith, so the same torch that Smith makes those silver hand pieces that we are all probably familiar with on the acetylene tank. Same torch, but it's an oxyacetylene combined, so it's more like a welding torch. The flame is tiny, but it is 10 times hotter. Maybe I mean, I don't know if it's 10 times hotter, but it is much, much hotter than just the acetylene flame. And because you have this pinpoint heat, that's how you melt those wires. That's how I can melt those wires without burning up the pearls. And you get the torch and the gas. Yeah, so like I have an oxyacetylene setup, but most people use a propane oxygen setup. Instead of acetylene, they use propane. Okay. And that's a little, because it's easier to procure propane than acetylene. Like I have to go to a welding supply to get my acetylene. I prefer the acetylene because it's a little bit hotter than propane, but you could get the same results with propane. But you're mixing the oxygen is boosting the heat in the gas, basically. Silver angle. Yes. Yep. And that's the best way to achieve those results. But there's another trick. Do you want to hear that? Yeah. I share it with you. Okay. So this is the biggest, most important thing. First of all, you need a flame that is super hot. So it can't be overly oxygenated, but it has to have enough oxygen in it to make it really, really, really hot. The idea is it's in out. So I'm using a wire, and it's coming through a hole. Oh, you can't ball the wire to a stone or a pearl, right? If you noticed in my designs, there was a metal barrier. That's important. So also there's a hole, the wire's coming through the hole. The hole has to be slightly larger than the wire size. The wire cannot be hitting the sides of the metal, because once the wire hits the metal, it's heat sinking, and I can't get enough heat on it. So I have to have air basically around the wire. Yeah. And so then I'm able to get in there with the torch. And again, I am hot, and I am in, and I am out. I'm making it slightly larger, and then I'm taking my pliers and I'm literally like making sure that wire's not touching. Yeah, mine's not as great as it used to be. Yes, yeah, it's a barrier. Yeah. Yep. No, that's what I don't want it to do. I don't want the wire to touch the surface. And space. Correct. Between that and the end. No, no, no. The ball is going right to the metal. It's going right down, but it's going hot and fast. And because I'm doing it so quickly, and again, the pearl is also drilled a little bit larger, but because I'm not generating enough heat. That's when you saw the video, my finger was there. I can feel it. Like I can tell if it starts getting hot, I know I gotta stop because I will burn it up. But I'm just like the ball goes and I'm out. Yeah. And it's not transferring heat to the stone or the pearl. It's not hot enough to be the same size as you want. No, bigger. Oh, if you're doing a rivet, you want the wire as tight as possible. Exactly, Judy. Exactly. 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 Yes. No, no, I do not use flux with silver. So when sterling silver, I'm using sterling. Now, I was just reading something recently that said, oh, use argentium or use what was fine silver. I'm sorry, that has never worked for me. I actually find that problematic. Maybe they're fluxing it. Like I don't know, but yeah, so I use sterling and I can ball up the sterling. It will oxidize a little bit, but then I'm polishing that off. Obviously with pearls I can't pickle it. I flux all my gold. I have never had flux work for me with silver. I find it, and it's an extra step. And with the pearls, I don't want flux because I can't pickle it, right? So if I could do it without flux, better. When I do 14 karat with pearls, I actually use the liquid flux, the patterns, because it kind of comes off cleaner and I don't pickle it. And then I can polish it much more easily rather than a paste flux, which crystallizes. Oh, it's an acid, sorry. It takes the crystallized flux and any oxidation off the metal once you've heated it. Yeah, interesting. But I think what you find what works for you and you do it. I know with 14 karat, and some of these pieces are 14 karat because I want the structure. Like I want it to be a little more structural than the soft, like an 18 or a higher karat gold. And for 14, I find that I have to flux it. So I use the patterns. It's an interesting thing. Years ago, because I used to do a lot more wholesale and production work, and I thought, oh, maybe I could find a polisher, right? Because that was the thing that was the hardest. And oh my God, I went to a polisher in the city. They destroyed my pieces, and I just said, you know what, I can't. So I do it. I just do everything myself. When I was in when I was in a higher production mode, I did have a helper that would come to my studio and help me. But I'm doing everything. I would do everything. I do commission work. And then again, I have the more, now I'm really focused more on one-of-a-kind pieces. But I still work, like I said, I still work with the Artful Home, and somehow that still works for me, and I still work through there. I actually have put some of my one-of-a-kind designs on there, and they've actually sold from there. And now I have my now I always had a website, but it wasn't an e-commerce site, and now I have an e-commerce site, which has actually been really great. I didn't expect, I did it over the pandemic because I had time, right? We all use that. And I created a Shopify site, and now I can sell my work through my website, which has made a big difference too. Traditional. Well, I do. I mean, you saw in there, like I do use some round, cut diamonds and, accent stones, mostly for accent stones. So I like to polish sterling using Gray Star is my go-to pre-polish, and then everything is final polish is rouge. Depends what I'm polishing. So sometimes on the wire work pieces, I'll polish them with a felt buff to keep everything kind of flat. And then I use a lot of stitched buffs. This is for the Gray Star. This is more for the pre-polishing. I like the yellow or the treated buffs. I usually just use yellow, but they come in other colors and they're stitched. And those tend to, and they're wide, they're muslin, but they're, I have wide ones. I like the knife edge ones. So I use those also a lot. Knife edge. No, knife edge. They call it a knife edge stitched buff. And it's very narrow. It's maybe a 1/4 inch wide. So I use that one a lot. And I love when those wear down because when they get to the center, they get harder. And so they're like soft enough, but not so hard as a felt buff. So those work really great for me. And then for rouge, I always just use a soft, unstitched white muslin buff for the finish polish. No stitch, no stitching for rouge. Gray Star to rouge. I sand. I do a lot of sanding. Oh yeah. There's a lot of rubber. I use rubber wheels very carefully, but I do a lot of sanding. Yeah, because I want those nice flat surfaces.